New findings from the Giffords Law Center show Georgia gets a failing grade for the strength of its gun laws. Giffords' 2025 scorecard shows Georgia is one of 24 states that earned the lowest grade for having weak gun safety laws, as the state loses more than 2,000 people a year to gun violence, one of the nation's highest totals. Giffords' analysis shows states with stronger gun laws consistently have lower gun death rates. So let's bring some context to these stats with Lindsay Nichols, Policy Director for the Giffords Law Center. Thanks so much for being with us, Lindsay.
Thanks for having me on.
You're joining us on a morning, Lindsay, where right now a 9-year-old boy is recovering at Atlanta's Grady Hospital after being shot in the leg last night. A woman in her 30s was also shot here in Atlanta, and this is just one of a couple shootings we're reporting today. So, Lindsay, based on the data, does this reflect the reality of gun violence in Georgia right now?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, it does. Georgia has some of the weakest gun laws in the country, and as a result, they have a very high gun death rate, the 14th highest gun death rate in the country. So unfortunately, far too many families in Georgia suffer the loss of a loved one from gun violence. Day after day, we see people dying this way in Georgia, as in many other states in the country.
So diving deeper into this report where Georgia got an F from the Giffords Law Center, what stood out most in this year's analysis?
Georgia received an F because it has very weak gun laws. It hasn't passed many basic gun laws like one that would require guns to be stored safely so that children can't access them too easily. A law requiring a background check before a gun is sold so that dangerous people, like people who've been convicted of felonies or violence, can't easily obtain a firearm. Laws allowing guns to be removed from an individual in a time of crisis. These are laws that other states have, and Georgia doesn't have them. Georgia also does nothing to support community violence intervention programs, a proven way to reduce shootings. So there's plenty of things that Georgia could do but isn't doing.
Yeah, let's talk about how folks here actually feel about these gun laws. An AJC Atlanta Journal-Constitution, a poll taken earlier this year found 55% of Georgians think stricter gun laws would reduce mass shootings, but only 28% said lawmakers should pass them. So clearly it's a tough sell for Georgians. So, Lindsay, what does the data say about the effectiveness of gun laws?
The data shows that these gun laws work. You know, we see this year after year in our scorecard where the states with the weakest gun laws have the highest gun death rates. But even more academically, we see researchers demonstrating that the kinds of gun laws that I've mentioned that have been studied and that many other states have passed do actually reduce gun homicides and gun suicides.
Yeah, and there have been efforts to pass gun laws in the Georgia legislature, especially in the wake of the Appalachia High School shooting. Just this past session, a bill was tabled in the Senate that would have provided a tax credit for folks for taking certain firearm safety measures. So, Lindsay, when you look at Georgia's current laws, where are there other gaps?
There are so many gaps in the laws. One of the things Georgia did recently that actually lowered its grade is allow people to carry guns in public without a permit. You know, previously Georgia, like many other states, required a permit for a person to carry a gun in public. They no longer require that. So that lowered the grade because it weakened the gun laws. And that's one of many kinds of laws that we know can actually make gun violence worse.
Yeah, and universal background checks, they have broad bipartisan support nationwide. What would implementing them in Georgia actually change day to day? You know, we just talked about this violence that we see here in Atlanta.
Right. So often these days, people are buying guns online, and that means that a person can just connect with someone on the internet or through an email and buy a gun from them with no formal paperwork, no background check required. So nothing to ensure that that person isn't a convicted felon or isn't a domestic abuser. Yeah. What a background check law would do specifically is it would require that person who connects with someone over the internet to take the gun to a licensed gun dealer, and the licensed gun dealer would like a gun store.
Lindsay, I'm so sorry to stop you. We're running out of time here. Thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate you.